with us, please share with your friends and others that this broadcast is live because we want to impact as many people as possible. I'm excited that we have Chief of Pediatrics at Beaufort, Jasper Hampton Comprehensive Health Services, joining us this evening. We're also joined by real parents to share their experiences navigating COVID and their children. Those folks include Joshua Dubois and Michelle Dubois, CEO and President of Values Partnership. They're going to be joined by other parents and friends as well. And so we want to get right to the conversation. We don't want to hold you long. We want to make it pop for you. And so let's welcome Dr. Jamie Singleton and Joshua and Michelle Dubois. Folks, how you doing?
Hello, Roland. How are you?
Hey, brother Roland. Good to see you.
I'm doing good. It's always good to be with a fellow alpha man. So if you're not an alpha, I'm sorry you couldn't get in.
I'm sorry.
All right, so let's start, Dr. Singleton. I want to start with you first. I opened up talking about how all of a sudden, boom, mask mandate. I flew today from Nashville. I spoke at Fisk University last night. People were in the airplanes, and we've seen the videos. People all excited, taking their mask off. Oh, don't have to wear it. I'm sitting here going, COVID's still real, y'all.
Yeah.
I'm doing the same thing too, Roland. I really am. It's scary in the sense that we are still living in this pandemic and we're still learning to deal with this virus. And yes, we're 2 years into it, but this virus is mutating and changing, and the variants, and they're coming so quickly. And we've got the spikes and the ebbs and the flows and the number of cases throughout the United States. And so, especially in close quarters, I think that we should still be doing our masks as much as we can. I know it's hard when you're in a public place and you see a lot of people take off their mask and you're like one of five who still have their mask on, but let
me stop you right there, because when you have these people, you got Dr. Oz, who's running for Senate in Pennsylvania, who's saying masks don't work. Okay, there's somebody who's listening and they're saying that do masks work? Everything that I've seen, doctors I've talked to for the last 2 years said absolutely masks stop the transmission, especially the N95 mask, of particles coming out of your mouth.
They do. They really do. And they work better if you're the sick person that has on the mask. For instance, if I have on a mask and I walk into a cloud of smoke, well, the smoke surrounds me. But if the smoke is coming out of my mouth and I have on the mask, then I'm not going to transmit as much of that smoke. And that's the idea behind it. The particles, if I have on the mask and I'm sick and I go achoo or I'm just talking, it's less likely going to spread to others around me. In just the opposite fashion, if everybody else is sick and I just happen to have on a mask, I'm still sitting in this mist of particles and illness, hoping that my mask works enough. But masks do work. Long story short, they do work. You should use them.
And the reason I find this to be quite fascinating is that the number of people who have talked about not having the flu, not having allergies, all of these things that we've been used to, because we literally changed how we were living in terms of washing hands, using sanitizer, wearing masks. So for the folks who act as if, oh, these things are just driving us crazy. No, it's literally has changed our health conditions.
It really has. I don't see half as many sick children as I used to. I almost forgot how to treat a cold because no one got sick, especially 2020 and 2021. No one got sick. And when they went back to school, they had masks, or most of them had on masks, or there was some.
The reason I'm laughing, I got hit with allergies last week, and I was like, damn, where'd that come from? Y'all was like, I was like,
forgot what it was like to have a cold.
Yeah.
I was like, where's my Zyrtec? I literally forgot what to do. I'm looking for my Vaccinase, and I'm going, because I literally haven't had to use it since 2019.
Correct. And that's where we are. We know that mask works just by looking at the other illnesses that we don't see a lot of. Common cold, strep, flu. I honestly, and I know some of my partners have, but I honestly have not treated a case of flu this year. I haven't. And that's just because the children are not as sick. People are wearing their masks where they were wearing their masks. And it was stopping the transmission of not just COVID, but of other illnesses too.
Joshua, Michelle, just talk about, again, the awareness, the importance of these various campaigns. Y'all have been very much involved with Ad Council and other organizations in terms of just constantly trying to keep people aware of providing information and knowledge, because information has changed. Because initially it was like, don't get masks. People got to forget because we had a massive shortage. They were trying to save them for hospitals and healthcare workers. And then when that changed, so it's a constantly flow or change of information.
Yeah, no, there is, but thankfully we have some trusted resources that are out there. Roland, you have been one, and we appreciate you and the platform that you've created, an independent platform to get real information out there, not just what you heard from such and such in the barbershop. Although the barbershop could be a source of information, but you are empowering people with fact-based information. We also have a massive campaign it's gone on for a couple of years now with the Ad Council, an organization called the COVID Collaborative. It's called It's Up to You. And this is them giving people information that they can use to make their own decisions, right? It's been focused on the African-American community, the Hispanic community, the faith community, rural communities, and more. And really powerful content so that people can make their own decisions. We've been in charge of the faith-based part of that in partnership with the Ad Council and an amazing leader over there named Sherry Thompson. But there's so many resources on the It's Up to You site. A big part of this is physical health, but also mental health too, Roland. So we've been speaking a lot about how the pandemic has impacted people and their mental health, especially kids too. I actually think the Ad Council has a PSA that's connected to this issue I want to tee up called Howie and the Howl. And so we're going to take a look at this because it's connected to some of these issues.
Michelle?
Hey, boss. Okay.
Said I'm fine.
Me to bed, see you in the morning. With the frosted Superman, but it wasn't on it. And we lost these. In my head, in my head, in my head. We were underlay in my head.
Hey, son.
Hey, Bob.
You know you can talk to me.
Yeah.
Powerful, right? And as Joshua said, we've been so proud to work with the Ad Council. We know that mental health is really important focus for parents as well during this time, right? We're proud to have worked with the Ad Council and on a number of campaigns, including some for children and teens. And we would love for you all to visit sounditouttogether.org and seizetheawkward.org as well.
Yeah, one of these campaigns, Sound It Out, was focused on, if you don't have the words to say, then write a song, write some rap lyrics, freestyle, something that expresses what you're going through. And so it's a really powerful campaign. Again, sounditouttogether.org and seizetheawkward.org.
I wanted to bring you back in here because one of the things that we also are seeing right now, we're seeing people still talk about vaccines now, triple boosted, having the fourth booster. Let's talk about effectiveness. I've had family members hit me up and ask me about this, and well, Pfizer and Moderna, and then does it wear off, and how long does it last? Is it 6 months? Is it a year? Is it 2 years? And so just give the latest on that to help folks who also might have some questions in that area.
All right. So the short answer to the vaccine question is yes, it's effective. It works. It's actually working better to prevent infection than having the infection itself. So even if you have had the COVID virus disease, you still want to get the vaccine because it works better to prevent. It's actually been working against the variants. It works. That's the short answer. So the structure and the timing of it changes. And I like to remind people that we are battling a disease and learning about it at the same time, unfortunately. And so remember, the science is going to change because as we learn new things, as you know better, you do better. So as we learn new things, we will change things up. And so the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccine are a 2-shot series. and then they've added boosters. Now, if you're immunocompromised, it's a 3-shot series. And then there's a first booster for that, and that's a little different. So if you have issues with your immune system, you're maybe in cancer treatment, you should get 3 shots. Everybody else will get 2 shots. And right now, we've only got vaccine from ages 5 and up.
So perfect example. So I got my 2 shots. I got COVID in December. And I probably got it when I was in Hawaii on vacation, because I landed on a Monday morning, flew to Atlanta that evening. I didn't have my first symptom until a scratchy throat. That Wednesday night, we had an event with Coca-Cola around the Celebration Bowl about 9:15, and then got back to the Airbnb, had chills for the next 2 days. But I tested negative and tested positive until that Saturday, and then came home in quarantine. So, but also I got the, what the hell y'all call it? Mononuclear, I just call it the nuclear potion. So I got that. So I couldn't get a booster for 90 days. So the question is, do I need to have a third shot?
The third booster, yes.
Okay.
Right now, there's two boosters. There's the third booster that everybody should get, ages 12 and up. And then there's the fourth booster that's only being recommended now for those who are ages 50 and up, or if you are immunocompromised. So the third booster.
So you saying I got to get a third and a fourth?
Right, well.
Dang, not all these shots.
Give me my shots, man. I want all my shots. You can give me 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, whatever you want to give me.
The fourth booster, I'm saying talk to your physician about it. If you are right now, most of the country, we're at a low in the numbers of new cases, which is great, which is awesome. I know some states are going up. So if you are in a place where it's going up now, this might be a great time for you to get your 4th dose. However, if you're in a place where you are kind of low and things are good and the numbers are okay, then you may want to wait, because we know that all boosters have been shown to increase the number of circulating antibodies. So what does that mean? That means the things that fight infection, as soon as I get my booster, in about 2 weeks, they're up and they're running and they're ready to fight infection in my body. We want them there, but we also know why we need the boosters is as the time goes on, they start to slowly decrease. Yes, it's still effective, and the rate of hospitalizations and death did not change, even though the antibodies were decreasing, which was a good thing. That meant that the vaccine was stopping hospitalizations and it was stopping death, even though the circulating antibodies was decreasing. So 4th dose, I'd say that's a personal thing. You should talk with your doctor, but definitely get your 3rd dose.
A little bit earlier, Joshua mentioned this, and I want you to speak about this, and I want to ask him and Michelle about how they've had to deal with this with their kids, and that is, he mentioned the mental aspect.
Yeah.
My wife and I, we had 2 of my twin nieces living with us last couple of years. They're now back in Texas. And the reality is they were dealing with the depression of COVID. The Surgeon General has talked about the mental impact of COVID on young children and teenagers. The markers in life that people were used to, prom, graduation, junior prom, all the other different events, sporting events, homecoming games, all of these things. So all of these life markers, you got, 2 or 3 years of students who frankly don't have those experiences. And a lot of folks have been handling it in different ways, and it's been very tough on this generation. What must parents and aunts and uncles and others, what must we be doing to be sympathetic to what they have been going through, just to say, hey, toughen it up, it happens?
Yeah.
That doesn't cut it.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, Michelle. Love your thoughts too. I think, a couple things that we've tried to do, and our kids absolutely hit that Zoom fatigue wall. I mean, you could see it on their faces. It was really having a toll on them, and they're now 6, 4, and 2. So to see young kids that are just, kind of overwhelmed by the pandemic and by Zoom was tough. Did a few things, man. Oxygen therapy. We went outside a whole lot more. We played outside. Everybody's got an outside, and everybody may not have access to any particular thing, but we all have an outside role. And I know you golf, and other people may play basketball or go in the woods and hike or whatever the case may be. And so we really doubled down on getting the kids outside and spending time stretching their bodies and stretching their minds through outside play. So that was a big thing. What else?
Yeah, absolutely. Outside play was huge for us. We also did 2 other things. One, we gave them space to talk about the things that they missed and the things that made them sad. And we didn't necessarily have an attitude of, toughen up and just, kind of get through this. It was a new awakening for us. We always have thought of ourselves as parents that tried to create space for our kids to be healthy and balanced, but we were hyper aware of how healthy and balanced they needed to be in the space that they needed to have those conversations and to simply share and to know that a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old are not going to share in ways that are going to be, on the level that an adult can share their feelings. I think for us, it also reflected back on us to make sure that we were healthy, that we were, as parents, making sure that we were still connecting, taking breaks, and being honest with ourselves about what we were feeling, the fatigue that we were having, so we could show up best for them. And then the last thing was we gave them space to take breaks. And so it was really good. Their school has been phenomenal about making sure that they had very, rigorous curriculum while they were still at home. But they also created space to say, you don't have to give us an explanation. If your child needs a break today from Zoom, you just email us and say, we're taking a break today, right? And so that was really helpful, too, to take the pressure off of parents.
Yeah, one more thing I would just throw in, there's an ethic in the church, praise God anyhow, even when things are tough. For us, it was celebrate anyhow. So if my younger sister wasn't able to go to her graduation from Spelman, but we were going to we celebrated her on Zoom no matter what. Even if it's a couple of years later, if you missed something 2 years ago, it is not too late to celebrate people. And so we just encourage, you to make space for celebration, for acknowledgement, for those moments that were missed.
Doc, again, speak to that from a practitioner standpoint. What have you seen? Have you had parents come in and talk about how they're having to deal with their children? And I had somebody in our YouTube chat room who said, depression, SMH. No, seriously, I'm telling you, we literally witnessed it in our nieces. It was real. Being home every single day. A lot of people forget that that's a part of the culture of also growing up is having friends and seeing them at school and also being away from parents. Now all of a sudden you literally are around your parents 24/7. If you did not love your wife or your husband, COVID exposed all of that. And if you really didn't enjoy your kids, COVID also exposed that. This thing has been real, Doc.
It has been. I see it daily. 2 things I saw: an increase in weight and an increase in depression. I had kids who shot up in their weight, and I had so many kids who are just, and it wasn't one specific thing. Some of them didn't want to go back to school. Some of them wanted to go back to school. Some of them missed their friends. Some of them didn't miss their friends. Whatever it was, they all had some level of depression and anxiety. I had some of them not afraid to go outside because it's COVID and I could die. And so all of that was and still is an issue, and it's real. And for the Dubois, I thank you guys because you guys are doing the hard work. And the hard work is just acknowledging that this is something that we need to deal with, and then dealing and doing something about it, whatever it is, trying something different. It's not so much that the parents are coming to me, it's the children are telling me themselves.
Wow.
And their mom and dad may or may not even know.
That's so cool.
And so that's what's happening. They're especially as they get older, teenage years, you already want to isolate anyway. And so I'm in my teenage years, I'm isolated. And so I isolate more. And it was the children and we screen It's a national thing now that you screen for depression. But we've been screening for depression for a little bit. So we screen all our teenagers 12 and up for depression, and they're all coming back positive, and we talk about it. And like I said, it runs the gamut of why. The only thing that I've heard this before, and I want to put this here. It has not been from masking. They didn't care about the masking. I've heard people say, oh, they're depressed because they have to wear masks. No one has ever told me it has been from masking. It's been from, I can't go to school, or I have to go to school now and I don't want to go back. I miss my friends. I don't want to see them because I've been bullied. And so I've gotten away from that bully. And that's the kind of stuff that I've seen.
Our kids love their masks. They're looking for their masks.
Yeah, they remind me.
It doesn't bother them.
Yeah. The mask has not at all been an issue for us. Especially, when they go outside, they get their mask break, right? And so the mask that's not been the issue.
Yeah.
Well, we want to remind folks that if you're looking for resources when it comes to communicating with your children, or again, nieces and nephews, cousins, go to sounditouttogether.org. Also, seizetheawkward.org. Again, there are resources there for children and teens to share their thoughts when it comes to dealing with COVID. Joshua and Michelle, I certainly appreciate y'all being with us. We've got some other guests here as well, but we also want to show a few more of the PSAs the Ad Council have put together with regards to this important discussion. So check it out.
Scene 1 of 3, take 1.
Taking my vaccine and staying safe. That's what you want me to believe.
Of course.
They're saying that the vaccine is 99% effective, right?
Where are you going with this?
What about the one dude?
I want you to get the vaccine because I care. I want you to be safe. If you was to die, man, that would literally kill me, man.
If it made you feel that way, bro, I would probably do.
Love you too.
All right, let's try this.
COVID has been a really long fight, and it's been especially tough on kids.
It's been a rough transition for all of us.
Right now, as a father, I want to give the best tools to protect my kids.
So what can we do to get back to that sense of normalcy?
Every day, parents ask me if their child 5 and above should get vaccinated.
The answer is absolutely yes.
My own sons, who are 6 and 8 years old, had their COVID vaccine.
It's an added layer of protection to keep kids from getting any type of severe illness or complications from a COVID infection.
A lot of parents are also wondering if the vaccines are safe.
Yes, it's safe and effective for children.
Definitely safer than a COVID infection.
Children get a smaller dosage than adults do.
So if you have questions or concerns about the vaccine, that's okay.
We're here to help.
We have the tools we need to protect kids and help them stay healthy and all get through this together.
You know, Doc, that video with the two brothers, that really was an important one because I know several individuals who had to bury their best friends, and they could not get them to take the vaccine. They literally could not convince them. They were like, no, absolutely not. And they went from having that conversation to planning their funeral. And so that thing is real. Earlier, I asked you specifically about the effectiveness of the vaccines, but do want you to weigh in specifically as the vaccines relate to children.
As they relate to children, they're showing to be effective too. Just like the children get 12 and up get the adult dosage, the children 5 to 11 get the pediatric dosage, which is 2 different vaccines, but they have all been proven to be safe. They've all been proven to be effective. And the booster for the 5 to 11 is still in clinical trials, but it is showing to be just as effective as the boosters for the adults have been. So it is definitely much, much, much safer than getting the disease itself. And again, it works better from protecting you from COVID against future COVID infection by getting the vaccine. It's definitely something I recommend all day, every day.
All right, then. Of course, Joshua, as well as Michelle, are still with us. We want to welcome some additional guests here, Kelly and Melissa Smith, also Richard Fortjor. Richard, is that correct? Fortjor? And Skylar Whitehurst. just want to make sure I pronounce that correct.
Skylar Porter. Right. And Roland, two more good Alpha brothers, by the way. I needed you to know that.
Okay. See, I mean, all I'm saying is it's 6 things. All right, then. Glad to have all of y'all here. Kelly and Melissa, share your thoughts as it relates to decision making when it came to protecting your children.
Sure. Good to be with you. So we have 2 kids, a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. And I guess to put it in context, we would maybe tell you a little bit about our mindset about vaccinations pre-pandemic. So pre-pandemic, we are pro-vaccination. We always have been. But we've always felt like we needed to do things in a discretionary manner that made us feel comfortable. So, for instance, when our kids were, newborns or, year 1 of life, according to the CDC, there's like lots of vaccinations they get in that first year. And in some doctor's visits, it can be like multiple vaccinations. Well, we all thought that those vaccinations were important, but we intentionally spaced them out for our kids because that made us feel better. So instead of getting like 4 vaccinations in one doctor's visit, we get 2 on that visit and then come back a month later and get the other 2. So that, we did things like that just made us feel more comfortable. So then when the pandemic happened, we kind of had a 2-pronged approach to things. As it pertained to vaccinating ourselves, Kelly and I were very much like, get me first in line. We were very adamant about getting it as soon as we could. When it came to our 5-year-old, and she was newly 5 when the vaccine was approved for her, we took a little bit of a pause to make sure we were making the right decision for her. Her risk profile was different than ours, right? Children generally have been shown to be more resilient against COVID. So it was like, okay, what are the pros and cons here for her, right? And once we educated ourselves about it, we had conversations with our pediatrician, we decided that it was the right move to go ahead and get her vaccinated. And once we made that decision, we did not delay.
And I think we really put it in the broader context of what does this mean for her, right? Like her ability to engage with her friends in ways that she might not have been as comfortable, or we may not have been as comfortable with before the vaccine. We both have 92-year-old grandparents and their great-grandparents. Actually, my grandmother's in Nashville. And we really wanted them to be able to have those kind of connections and have those moments, while, a lot of those things are fleeting. So that's really the context that we set when we said it was the right time for our 5-year-old to get the vaccine.
Skylar and Richard, did you have any apprehensions, concerns when you had to make your decisions?
Well, our children are younger. They're only 3 and 1. So, both fortunately and unfortunately, we kind of have the gift of continuing to see how things panned out. But a lot like Kelly and Melissa, we did not hesitate to get vaccinated ourselves. We both work in pretty high transmissible industries. I'm a hairstylist and Richard is a dentist. So we had to hit the ground running before the world opened up, back being one-on-one, face-to-face with patients and clients. So that's kind of helped us shape our approach to the way we manage our kids and protecting them, while also just having not too much anxiety about it and remaining open to the ever-changing landscape of COVID.
Yeah, I mean, our kids, our 3-year-old is in a program where they tested, almost every day, it felt like. I mean, it's almost definitely every week. One thing that we've noticed is that, kids are really resilient, right? Our 3-year-old doesn't care much about what's going on in the world. She wants to play. When she sees people, she wants to run up to them. So, you know, for us, the decision when the time comes is kind of a no-brainer. You know, we have to kind of let kids be kids. And if there's something out there that's going to allow that, we're 100% for it.
You know, that is, Joshua and Michelle, a lot of parents have had to make these decisions in so many different ways. But they also had to factor in the fact that they had children who are around grandparents and dealing with that as well. And so, you know, for the both of you, did you sort of have, were you factoring some of that in as well in terms of, okay, what is the impact of our kids being around other family members? And also, you don't control the decisions of other parents. And so were y'all also being proactive and saying, we need to know what decision y'all made, which will determine whether or not our kids can even be around your kids?
That's exactly right. Yeah, the grandparent piece was a big part of it for us. Michelle's mom lived with us part-time and still is here a lot. They're around my parents a fair amount, and even my grandparents or their great-grandparents, it enabled them to connect there. That said, we kind of pumped the brakes a little bit at first and really, you know, had some open questions. Is this the right thing? And, you know, what does the data say? I think the thing that did it for us was we know a lot of parents, a lot of kids. We did not know anyone, you know, we know the rates of side effects are low overall. And we didn't know anyone that was impacted by significant side effects in terms of the vaccine. But we did know kids who were significantly impacted by COVID and certainly parents and adults who were as well. And so just kind of weighing the two, it's not a decision in a vacuum. COVID is real and it's out there. That doesn't mean we have to be, you know, live in fear, but we compared outcomes of vaccination versus outcomes of COVID-19 if our kids, if our 6-year-old were to contract the virus, and decided that it was the right move for him to get vaccinated.
Absolutely. Like Joshua said, you know, my mom was living here. She had just turned 75, and we also had a newborn at the top of COVID. Yeah. And so we were very mindful of how do we keep everybody safe. And so as Melissa and Kelly outlined, like, our context for this was we were clear about we wanted to vaccinate ourselves as soon as a vaccine was available. You know, just given how deadly the initial COVID-19 was, right? We were watching CNN every day, MSNBC, and watching the toll, right?
I was watching Roland Martin.
We were watching Roland too. Absolutely.
Very smart. That's right. You were getting better information from Black doctors, from Black scientists. And that was the key.
Hey, Roland too. We had you streaming too. And so we were just watching the numbers though, right? We were watching and every number had a story, right? Every number was a person. And we actually knew some people that were affected by COVID in very significant ways. We knew the long hauler stuff that people were really challenged with, some mental challenges that came a part of the long haulers. And so for us, it was very clear. The calculus for us, the cost benefit analysis of becoming vaccinated was very clear for us as adults, as parents. We were going to get vaccinated as soon as a vaccine was available. Like Joshua said, for our 5-year-old, it was a much tougher decision. And so lots of factors went into it. And surprisingly, one thing that we didn't consider that would be a part of our factor or our decision was his opinion, right? Like, I mean, it just didn't cross our minds, but his school had a vaccine program that they operated while we were out of town, and he wasn't able to participate, but a lot of his friends did. And he saw that a lot more of them were able to interact, you know, their parents were a little more lenient with masks and things like that. And so he was very much lobbying for us to consider the vaccine. And so, of course, we talked to him, we talked to his pediatrician, and we decided to allow him to become vaccinated. And so,
he asked for it.
He asked for it
because his friends had it.
Because his friends had it. Mm-hmm. And of course, you know, that's not the only reason, but that was a factor. And it was a factor that we, at the top of our decision-making process, would have never thought would have been one of the factors, which was him really lobbying for becoming vaccinated because he wanted to be able to re-engage with his friends in more close contact.
Doc, I want to bring you in here because I'm sure you had to deal with some really worried parents on this issue here. What were those conversations like?
really it ran the gamut. Some of them were just side effects. I don't know what the long term is going to be. And of course, we had not much to say about. The main thing about that is just look at vaccines in general. You really don't hear anybody said, I got cancer from my vaccine that I got when I was 2 months old. That's just not how vaccines work, you know. And with the COVID vaccine, the only new part of the engineering, and I'll put new in quotation marks because that part of the engineering has been around for many times. The messenger RNA is used in cancer treatments. It just hasn't been really used in vaccines like that. But that's the only new part of it. The other parts of the vaccine, the salts, the lipids, the carbohydrates, sugar, it's all part of other vaccines. And so that was that answer as to side effects. Is like, it's unlikely, nothing's 100%, but it's very unlikely given what we know to be true about the other vaccines and what we know to be true about messenger RNA. Again, it's been used in other areas of medicine for decades now. Some of it was conspiracy theories, and that's kind of hard to refute. You just kind of go with the theory. But my underlying thing to parents is to make sure you vet your sources. I've had parents come in and tell me things, and then they said, oh, I got this from this blog I read online, or I got this from my cousin down the street. And I look at them and I say, that's great, but does your cousin know anything about medicine? So just when you're making these decisions, and they are hard, and we understand that, again, we're fighting a virus and learning about it at the same time. So we understand their apprehension about things are changing, but that's a good thing. Science should change. We can't stay the same. But just make sure when you're getting your information, be sure to vet your sources to make sure they're reliable, to make sure that they're going to give you good information. Because there's a lot of misinformation floating around about COVID and the vaccine and what it can and can't do. And children do get sick. Children are hospitalized. Yes, they're not hospitalized at the rate that older adults are, but they're hospitalized. They can get very sick illnesses, MSC, multi-inflammatory, systemic in children. I think I said it correctly, but it's just basically they get inflammation in all parts of all of their body organs. And so that puts them in the hospitals, you can imagine. Of course, there's death, but also they are getting long-term COVID side effects too. They are dealing with fatigue 3, 4, 5 months out of having recovered from the virus. So all of these things are still possible. And we just haven't seen that with the vaccine. We've seen it with the disease, but we have not seen it with the vaccine. So long story short, get the vaccine. It's proven to be safe and effective. It works in children, it works in adults, and it is keeping everyone out of the hospital, and it is preventing death. And that is our main goal, is to prevent morbidity and mortality. So please, please, please get your vaccines.
Hey, Roland, the doc mentioned misinformation, and I know you know about this, but there's a powerful piece that the Ad Council and Joy Collective put together to respond to a specific piece of misinformation. There's a lot of conversation about Tuskegee experiment. They're not going to do Tuskegee on me and so forth. And without folks really knowing that history, they put together this amazing series of videos that actually talks to descendants of the men who were involved in that experiment and unpacking what it really was and what conclusions really should be. And long story short, a lot of those folks, I think all of the ones who participated in this series are strong advocates of vaccinations. If you just go on YouTube and search Ad Council Tuskegee, they and the Joy Collective did an amazing job on that. So just wanted to drop that piece of information as well.
Well, I sit here and look at some of these people here. Like I've got a bunch of these crazies mad because today when I was flying, I still wore my goggles and I was double masked. And people are like, oh my God, it's about freedom. Like, that's cute. But I know a whole bunch of people, Doc, who were yelling freedom, who are in the grave. And I keep telling folk, ain't no flip side to death. Now, you can talk about going see Jesus and God in heaven, but some people who are evil are going to be in hell. That's your flip side. But the reality is, when you're gone, you're gone. So play with this all if you want to, but there's a hardcore reality that people are still experiencing. And again, as I said, there's probably a DJ, African-American, who just died, 55 years old, and he battled COVID for the last 4 months. He's gone.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. One side effect I will say that is out there is our daughter fought us kicking and screaming to get that shot. And she wanted the shot. She rolled up saying, I want the shot. And then 3 seconds before she needed to get it, she said, but she got it. And then she was like, oh, that was nothing.
We're pediatricians. We do that every day. No worries.
Yeah. So true. And I just remember the website is getvaccineanswers.org. That's where you can find all of the resources related to the It's Up to You campaign and Tuskegee campaign I just mentioned, and more. Again, it's getvaccineanswers.org. Kelly and Melissa, we had that exact same experience. We said that August wanted it, but then we got over there. We had to bribe, cajole, promise. Yep. I didn't headlock him, but I wanted to. It was just bad. But afterwards, it was fine. It was, it was over.
Yeah. She said, let me be brave. And we just paused and said, all right, let's let you be brave. And then it worked.
Yeah, and can I tell you about our experience with that? It was just so interesting. Our son, did the same thing, wants to go get the shot, gets there, completely falls apart. And I think it was a testament to how amazing the nurses were. They were so patient, right? Like there were other people behind us, but it wasn't like, when I was a kid and you needed to get a shot and you went in there and you really showed out and they're like restraining you and holding you down. It was very empowering, I think, for him, that even though it took us an extra 20 minutes or 30 minutes to get that shot, that he was able to do it on his own terms again, right? So anyway, I know everybody doesn't have that kind of time, but it was just the most amazing thing. And it's funny, the vaccine actually looks like much worse than what it really is. It is the most painless shot. And he saw me get mine first, and I think that was it. That he was like, that was a long needle, and that looks like that's gonna hurt. And then once he had the first one, he was like, actually, that was surprisingly painless, right? And so
that's the power of a mama. I just gotta give a shout out, because me, I was like, man, just put it in there. And she worked with the nurse. They took their time, and he didn't feel like it was forced on him, and so forth.
So then the second
be
one
like
was
her.
easier.
Don't be
the
like
The second one was easier because of that, right? So he doesn't have this fear of like needles and like trauma associated with needles, and toys are always helpful. So Dad was great about promising to take him to Target to pick out what
I will ask each of you this, and that is, give me an example of the toughest conversations you've had to have with friends, fraternity brothers, sorority sisters, loved ones, church members on this very issue, not just when it comes to social distancing, when it comes to wearing masks, when it comes to washing hands, sanitizing, but also vaccines. How did those conversations go down? And did you have any people who you talked to and they just simply said no?
I'll jump in on that one. I actually had this conversation a few weeks ago with a fraternity brother, part of the greatest fraternity on earth, but said one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. Usually not coming from alphas, but whatever. He was telling me about, he was unvaccinated at the time, and had a lot of reasons for why he didn't want to do it, citing Tuskegee and all that other stuff that we all hear from our brothers and sisters. He also did not want to vaccinate his kids. So I'm a little more sensitive about that, right? Kids are, a whole different ballgame. But one of the things that we talked about was, hey man, these kids have essentially grown up in this COVID world, unlike most of us, right? They're not coming at this with the same anxiety we have from past histories of misuse of medicine against people of color. And I think it's important for us not to pass those anxieties on to our kids. I think when we're approaching these decisions, we're thinking for them like it's us. And the reality is, as I said earlier, kids are very resilient, And one of those resiliencies is that they have grown up with this situation. You know, our kids are still small enough. We just had our first non-COVID birthday for our kid. You know, every birthday has been COVID. Every birthday has been on Zoom. So I just want to kind of encourage us, those of us who are parents, to take a step back before we make decisions for our kids. Just remember that, you know, they don't know some of the same histories that we do, and let's not take those chances, those experiences away from them.
Yeah. Rick, it's such a great point. You know, I, in terms of tough conversations and moments that I had, one was really tragic. Our last big event for our company right before COVID hit was a set visit for a movie in Atlanta. We brought a bunch of faith leaders down there, and then came back. That was in February. Came back in March. We had learned that one of the pastors that was with us passed away of COVID. So it was just the gut punch early on that this thing is real and it's serious. And as a result, we haven't really pulled punches, right? If we got family members that are not trying to get vaccinated, unfortunately, our response was, well, you can't come with us to to a grandmother's house, or you can't come over our house, and so forth. And so, you know, I think it was that the reality of that mortality early on that kind of shifted things for us.
Absolutely. I think our family knew early on that, like, we were very, very, very rigid about, like, social distancing, and especially, you know, in February or March of 2020, before other folks were necessarily there. And so we kind of ripped the Band-Aid off early. And so people kind of knew, like, they may be a little more challenging to interact with. But I think as the world started to open back up and vaccines were becoming available, I think it was really tough for some family members to, like, know that the line was still there, right? And now the line is, you know, before it was like very little to no interaction, and now the line is we'll interact, but you have to be vaccinated. And so I think there were some tough conversations, but I think people kind of knew that they were coming.
They were not tough conversations for us. It was very simple. You can't come around.
Yeah.
I mean, we were not about to sit here, and in fact, you know, I think one of my sisters was hesitant, which I didn't understand that, considering all the damn health issues she got. But we were having a family get together, and we said, you can't come around, period.
Yeah.
Unless you get vaccinated. Oh, she got vaccinated, but we were dead serious. There was no debate. There was no conversation. There was no cajoling. It was real simple. If you think you're going to come around the family, then you need to be vaccinated. In fact, I lost two aunts last year, and it wasn't the COVID. One was 81, one was 80. My mom's two older sisters, and they died within about 4 months of each other. But what's very interesting is that when we had the repast for one of my aunts, my mom said, "Hey, these tables are not spaced properly." So literally, that was the family had the repast after the funeral. She said, "No. Our family," she's like, "me and my kids and my husband, we gonna have a separate repast. Y'all ain't got enough social distancing." And so mama wasn't playing, because, you know, daddy is 75 next week. She's 75 in November. They were slicing, dicing everybody. They wouldn't even know they were more hardcore than me.
Yeah.
No, that's so true, Roland. We had experience with a wedding like that too, where it was like, y'all can do what you want to, but we're going to distance. We're going to have our masks on. You know, it doesn't mean we're going to stop our lives, but it's definitely something we're going to take into account wherever we go.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Dr. Singleton, I want to ask you this, because it's been very interesting, the number of doctors who don't want to get vaccinated. And y'all have been fighting in the medical profession, folks who've been resistant. You've had hospitals who've had to actually fire doctors and workers who did not want to get vaccinated, who were talking against masks as well. What has that been like, dealing with your own colleagues who are supposedly the experts we turn to in situations like this?
Well, for me at my organization, we've actually been doing very well. when the organization decided to go and mandate vaccines for everybody, I think it was somewhere around 95% of our employees decided to get a vaccine. We did have some medical exempts, which was somewhat understandable, but okay. But really, it's been, for us here, it's been okay. Now, I do have and know of people who just decided to leave. And we did have a couple of people who just decided that that's not what they wanted. And, you know, it's a decision that you have to make for yourself. But really, we shouldn't let fear stop us. And we've got the science, we've got the evidence, and we know what this disease can do. We've seen, we all know somebody who's lost somebody to this disease. We all do. We all know somebody who ended up in the hospital, who was on a ventilator, or know somebody that was ended up in the hospital on a ventilator. We know someone who is dealing with long COVID. We know people who have been really impacted from this disease. Now, the question is, do we know people who have been really impacted from the vaccine in a negative way? And I don't know of anybody who's been impacted from the vaccine in a negative way. Even the kids who've come in, and you know, everybody can kind of get the systemic symptoms right after vaccination: soreness, headache, short of breath. I mean, not short of breath, fever. I've seen that a handful of children actually experience it. Most of the parents say, oh, they did fine after their first shot, and they come get the second shot and they do fine too. So it really is something that we're building up. We as people have built up in ourselves to be fearful of, which we don't have the evidence to have any fear for it. With that, I just say, use your evidence, make your best decisions, but the vaccine works. And it's safe and it's effective, and everyone should get it if we want to be able to understand and survive in this going forward. COVID's not going anywhere. We're not going to there's never going to be a time that we get rid of COVID, at least not in the next couple of decades.
Yeah.
Really? Next couple of decades?
Wow.
Okay.
Well, if you think about it, I mean, they finally eradicated smallpox, but how long did that take?
Right.
And this virus has shown that it can mutate, and it's a living organism. It wants to live and grow just like we do. And so it's going to do everything it can to live and grow and multiply. And so it's not going anywhere. We will always be dealing with COVID. The question is, how will we be dealing with COVID? And that's going to be something that's going to be up to us.
Got about 3 minutes left. I want to do final comments. So Skylar and Richard, you're first.
Wow. You know, I think about what life is going to look like now that we're in kind of what feels like a light at the end of the tunnel with all of this. And I just hope that things look different for our children, you know, in the next year, 2 years. There's a lot of information out there, and I would challenge everyone to kind of lean into the people that they trust, right? You chose a pediatrician that was the best from what the choices you had and resources you had. Lean into them, really have a conversation with them as if you're talking parent to parent about what they would do. And if you can kind of quiet that noise, you might have a little more clarity about how to proceed.
Yeah, and I'll say to, you know, to especially to Black and brown people, you know, we tend to not trust our healthcare providers. A lot of that is due to historical issues, but I have a real simple answer. I know a lot of Black and brown healthcare providers. So switch to somebody that you can trust. It's really as simple as that. And those of us who have voices, you know, Roland, you're doing a great job. Joshua and Michelle, you're doing a great job. Go straight to the source that you trust. There's no reason to have to be with somebody that you don't feel comfortable with that's going to impact your health negatively.
I absolutely agree. Kelly and Melissa?
Well, I'm actually representing the Smith delegation.
All right.
But I would say that, I completely agree that we've all had a lot of people impacted. I had a fraternity brother that passed last year due to the virus. And what getting vaccinated has done and what it's provided us as a family is more comfort levels, right? Comfort levels to engage on that, family trip, comfort levels to, go to a birthday party and, maybe, not wear a mask outside, right? Or, whatever that thing is that really connects you back into society. I think that's been so important from a mental health standpoint, from a just social connection. And that's really where I think that vaccination is the foundation of creating that space to be able to do that. So thank you very much for this forum to really share that message.
Joshua and Michelle.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Roland, for having us. It's been a really fun conversation and informative as well. I would say, I think it's important for us to not, I feel like as things are rolling back in terms of masks and the focused attention on vaccines, I think it's important for us to acknowledge what we have been through for the last 2 years. I think it's important to not look past that and just say, I'm so excited I can go to that barbecue, I can do this now. But I think it's important for us to say, man, we've really been through something, right? And it's fundamentally shaped who we are as individuals and shaped how we interact globally, right? And so I think it's important for us to take a moment to pause and acknowledge and have a level of gratitude that we are now on, not completely on the other side, but we are now over the hump, at least in what was a global pandemic. And that's important for us to all acknowledge for ourselves and for our children, and to take a moment to say, thank goodness that we have vaccines, and thank goodness that we had some folks that were making smart decisions to encourage mask wearing, that we are where we are now. It's not by happenstance. And so anyway, I think I really like the notion of taking a moment to honor what we've been through in the last 2 years, our resiliency, and also the level of resources that have come available is really important. And I think just moving forward, I think one thing that Rick said I would really encourage parents is to reduce the level of fear that we are sharing with our children as we make decisions around vaccines and other things related to this pandemic. So, Joshua?
I think you're exactly right. And I would say, get the facts, get the information. There are a wealth of resources out there. Tune in to our brother Roland. Go to getvaccineanswers.org. I cannot tell you how powerful and clear the information there is. You got the cdc.gov. You also have getvaccineanswers.org. And I use that. When I get a video clip, I share it with our family. I send it on a text chain. I engage with the content so that if I'm in the barbershop and somebody's saying something crazy, I can say, well, no, here are the facts, or here's a video about the Tuskegee experiment and so forth. And so, definitely a key takeaway for me is make sure you're visiting getvaccineanswers.org and empowering people with information to make their own decisions.
Dr. Singleton, your final comments.
Again, I want to say thank you for having me too. And I'm just going to reiterate what everyone just said plainly and simply, and just say, get the vaccine. It works. It's safe. And it's effective. And ask for help. Get the resources that you need. Your pediatricians, your providers, your nurse practitioners, whoever you see, we want to answer your questions. We really do. We get excited when we get questions because we like, oh, they're engaged and they want to know the truth. And so please ask us. Set up an appointment. Go see them. And let them answer your questions. We're not here to mislead you. We just want what you want, which is the best for your children. That's why we went into this profession, because we want what you want, the best for all children. So please, if you have questions, come to us. Please do your research if you want to. Vaccineanswers.org and the cdc.gov are great resources. Use them as much as you can. And get vaccinated. Get vaccinated. Not just the COVID vaccine, all vaccines. Get vaccinated. That's the pediatric plug right there. Get vaccinated.
So it's it's really interesting listening to some people. I guess some conservative was upset with my post earlier today when I said that I was double masked, and they're like, "Oh, you're wearing a cloth mask." Actually, the top was not a cloth mask; it's actually from space mask. Underneath is the N95. It's actually covering my face, and so don't understand. This ain't my first rodeo. But somebody made this comment. They said, "This is ridiculous. This is not about you." Actually, it is. See, if I'm wearing a mask, if I'm social distancing, it is about me and my wife and my parents and my brother and my 3 sisters and my 13 nieces and church members and fraternity members and other people, people who work for me on my show. So actually, it is about me. And I think that's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with a group of people out here. People who, a lot of people on political ideology, some people who might be black and who are white, people go through all this sort of stuff and they're complaining what's not about them. But here is the reality, and we've said this. Too many of us know people who are dead because of COVID. In the first 6 months of COVID, we had more than 50 black pastors die. Bishop Harry Jackson, who preached the Easter sermon in the Oval Office with Trump in 2020, was dead 6 months later. Joshua, you were on a panel with him at Bishop T.D. Jakes' church, along with Paula White, April Ryan moderated that, and Father Michael Flager. He's gone. He beat cancer. COVID killed him. So I want people to understand, you can play games all you want to, that's fine. But you better factor in if there are others who are around you. And we know black families where mom and dad both died, leaving their children orphans, forcing their families to now have to raise their children because they're no longer here. And so when you make a decision not to wear a mask, when you make a decision not to social distance, when you make a decision not to get vaccinated, do understand that it's not about just you. And if you're single and don't work around people, okay, whatever, that's fine. We all have to make the decision. But I would hate, as D.L. Hughley said, when I talked to him, when he got COVID, he said it hit him. I literally could have been the person responsible for the death of my wife and my children. He said, I could not have lived with myself if they had contracted COVID from me and didn't survive. That's what changed his view on the vaccine and changed his view on taking precautions. So folks, our goal is to give you information. If you you want to trust black doctors, we have them on every single day. We've done more than 100 segments on COVID on Roland Martin Unfiltered. We've had black ER doctors, black specialists, infectious disease specialists. We had black scientists. We have run the gamut, and we're going to continue. Because if we talk about Black Lives Matter, it matters whether it's in the streets, and it matters if it's at home, if it's at work, and we're dealing with COVID. We appreciate everybody who participated tonight. Don't forget, there were several websites that we gave throughout the course of this conversation. Quickly, I want to give those. That is sounditouttogether.org. Seize the awkward.org, and also getvaccineanswers.org. That's information that you can get. So we certainly appreciate everybody who participated in this, all of our panelists, also those involved in the production. And we want to certainly thank those who made this possible. And that is, of course, the Ad Council, the COVID Collaborative, as well as the Values Partnerships. Folks, I appreciate it. Thanks a bunch.
Sir, we appreciate
You guys having us.
All right, bye-bye now.